Story 1. The Man Who Knew My Schedule. My name is Marcus, and I work night shift at a warehouse on the industrial side of town, so my life has always been a routine locked into the same hours. I get home at 7:30 every morning, dead tired, shower fast, close the door, and sleep. And that schedule never changed for 18 months without a single problem. Until the footsteps started in the hallway outside my apartment. The first morning I heard them at 7:42, exactly 12 minutes after I walked through my front door. Slow, heavy steps that stopped right outside my unit, 3 seconds of silence. Then continued down the hall as if nothing had happened, and I stayed in bed telling myself it was just a neighbor. The next morning it happened again at the exact same time. The same stop, the same 3 seconds, the same calm movement away. And by the third morning I was checking my phone before it even started, waiting for 7:42 like it had become part of my routine too. On the fourth morning I stood behind my door listening, and I felt my throat tighten when the steps stopped directly outside again, because silence that precise does not feel accidental. On the fifth morning I looked through the peephole, and the hallway was empty. No one there, nothing at all, even though I had just heard them pause right in front of me. That afternoon I decided to test it, so before my shift I waited in the lobby near the mailboxes for hours, watching the front entrance, and at 7:28 in the morning I finally saw him. Tall, thin, dark hoodie, dark pants, no phone in his hand, no mail, no hesitation, walking in like he belonged there. He went straight to the stairs, and I followed 2 flights behind, keeping my steps quiet, and when he reached the second floor he turned the corner and walked directly to my door, stopping for 3 seconds exactly, then continuing past it like he was just confirming something, like he was learning the location. He disappeared down the emergency stairwell at the end of the hall, and I ran back inside and locked my deadbolt so hard my fingers hurt. I called building management and described him, but the woman only said no one matching that description lived on my floor. And when I asked about cameras, she told me she would call back, but she never did. The next morning I stayed awake, sitting behind my door with my phone ready, and at 7:42 the footsteps came again, slow and heavy, stopping in the exact same place. And after 3 seconds of silence there was a knock, 3 deliberate raps that did not sound like a neighbor or a delivery, more like someone testing the wood. I did not move, but the knocking came again louder, and then his voice arrived through the door, calm and flat, and he said my name, Marcus, not hello, not excuse me, just Marcus, like he had used it before. My throat closed, and he said it again, Marcus, then added quietly that he knew I was in there. And I stood frozen behind the door while 10 seconds passed. Then his footsteps moved away like he was satisfied. When I played back the recording later, his voice was clear, no mistake, no distortion. He knew my name. I called the police, and they arrived an hour later, took a report, asked if I had enemies, asked if I owed anyone money, and when I said no, they told me they would patrol the area. Then they left. That night I did not sleep, because every time I closed my eyes I heard him saying my name in that calm tone, and at 4:17 in the morning my phone buzzed with an unknown number. And when I answered, no one spoke. There was only breathing, heavy, slow breathing, and I hung up. But 30 seconds later it buzzed again, the same number, the same breathing, until a whisper finally came through, telling me I should answer the door next time. I threw the phone against the wall and watched the screen crack, and I sat on the edge of the bed shaking, and at 5:03 there was a sound on the fire escape outside my bedroom window, metal scraping carefully like someone climbing without rushing. I grabbed a bat from the closet and stood beside the glass, and the scraping stopped. 20 seconds of silence. Then 3 soft taps on the window, gentle, patient, and I did not move. And after a moment the tapping stopped and footsteps moved away along the fire escape. When the sun came up, I looked outside and saw nothing. No one, no sign of movement. Except on the windowsill below the glass, there was a single gray sweatshirt string tied in a perfect knot. I called the police again, and they came, took the string as evidence, said they would run DNA, and then weeks passed with no call, no update, and I stopped waiting. I moved out, a new apartment on the 5th floor, no fire escape, a different building across town, and I told no one, not coworkers, not neighbors, not friends, because I wanted it to be invisible. I moved after midnight with my car packed alone, underground garage, elevator straight up, silent hallway, new door, new locks, deadbolt engaged, chain set, and I sat on the floor leaning against it, feeling relief for the first time in weeks. I slept for a few hours, and the next night my new phone buzzed with an unknown number, ringing 7 times before stopping, and 30 seconds later a text appeared with 2 words, "New place," and my hands went numb. I did not respond. I did not call anyone. And the next morning, when I asked the building about the hallway camera outside my unit, they told me it did not work yet. I checked my locks again and again, and that night I slept with a knife under my pillow, and 2 days passed without anything else, long enough for my body to start believing maybe I had escaped. Then Sunday evening I came home from buying groceries, unlocked my door, stepped inside, locked it, dropped the bags, and saw it on the kitchen counter, a gray sweatshirt string tied in a perfect knot. The same kind, the same placement, like it was meant to be noticed. I did not touch it. I backed away slowly and called the police, and when they arrived they looked around and said the door showed no forced entry. Everything was locked. And one officer picked up the string with a tissue like it was nothing, asked if I had enemies, and I stared at him until he left. I sat on the floor with my back against the door, holding the knife until morning, and that night my phone buzzed again, unknown number, and I did not answer, and a text appeared, still watching, and I have not slept since. I check the locks every hour. I listen for footsteps, even when the hall is silent, because he did not follow me here. He was already here, and I do not know how. I do not know how he got in. I do not know how he found my new address. I do not know what he wants, but I know he is not done. Last night, I woke up to tapping on the window. 3 soft taps like before, and I did not move, did not breathe. And after 30 seconds of silence, a whisper came through the glass, so quiet I almost missed it. "Marcus, just my name." And then footsteps moved away. I waited until sunrise before I looked outside. Nothing on the fire escape, no footprints, no signs. But on the windowsill there was another gray sweatshirt string tied in the same perfect knot. I did not call the police, because what would I say? A string appeared again. They would not believe me. They would say I need sleep. They would say I am paranoid. But paranoia does not tie knots. Paranoia does not know your name. Paranoia does not find you after you move in secret. I packed a bag last night with clothes and cash and my passport and left it by the door ready to run. But where would I go? He found me once. He will find me again because he already knows who I am. He already knows where I live. He already knows my routine. And routines are hard to break. I still wake up at 7:30. I still get home at 7:30. I still check the locks 3 times before sleeping. I still jump when my phone buzzes. And when I close my eyes, I still see him, tall. Thin, gray sweatpants, black hoodie, no expression, just watching, just waiting, and I do not know if he is outside right now. I do not know if he is watching me. As I say this, I do not know if he will be at my door tomorrow morning, but I know he is not going away, and I know he will not stop until I answer, and I know I will never answer, because some people do not need a reason. They just need to know where you live, and he knows where I live. He has always known, and he is still here, and he is still waiting. Story 2. The Roof Walker. My name is Derek, and I live alone in a one-story house at the edge of a wooded strip where there are no close neighbors, no streetlights, and no one around to notice anything out of place. I work from home. I like quiet. And last summer, I started hearing something on my roof that did not sound like an animal at all. It sounded like weight. Slow steps across shingles, not running or scrambling, but pacing, like a person moving carefully above my bedroom. The first time it happened, I stayed still and listened. 3 steps, a pause, then one more step directly over my head. And I checked the time on my phone and saw it was 3:17. And I waited for some normal sound to follow. Claws or chittering or the quick chaos of an animal. But there was nothing, only the slow, deliberate movement and then silence. I did not call anyone that night. I told myself it was wind, a branch, the house settling, anything that could explain it without making it real. But the next night it happened again at the exact same time. 3:17, steps above the roofline, a pause over my window. Then a faint scraping sound, like something being dragged along the gutter. I got out of bed and went to the window, and I did not open it. I only pulled the curtain aside an inch and looked out into the dark yard. The trees were still, no headlights, no flashlights, no sign of anyone, and I went back to bed without sleeping. The third night I stayed awake on purpose, sitting on the floor with my phone in my hand. And at 3:17 the steps started again, slow and heavy, not random. Moving from the front edge of the roof toward the back, like whoever was up there knew exactly where my bedroom was. I stood up and turned on my phone light and aimed it uselessly at the ceiling, and the steps stopped, and after a few seconds there was one soft thump above my window, like someone shifting weight to look down. I moved to the glass and pulled the curtain 2 inches and saw bare skin at the edge of the roof for half a second. Not a face, just a foot and part of a calf hanging over the gutter line. Human, and I froze as it pulled back out of view like the person had crouched down again. I stepped away and called 911, telling the operator there was someone on my roof and that I had seen a foot. And she asked if they were trying to get inside, and I said I did not know, and she told me to stay inside while an officer responded. I turned every light on in the house and stood in the hallway with my keys in my pocket, like I might have to run. And 20 minutes later, a police car pulled into my driveway, and 2 officers walked the yard with flashlights, looking up, circling the house, checking the fence line. And when they came back, they said they saw nothing at all. No ladder, no footprints, no disturbed gravel. And one of them asked if I had been drinking, and I told him the time, the pattern, that I stayed awake, and he shrugged and said, "Sometimes animals sound like people on a roof." They left, and I stood in the driveway, staring at the dark roofline, feeling exposed in a way I could not explain. The next morning I climbed onto a chair to look at the gutters and found no marks or damage, but near the back corner of the house I saw fresh scuffs in the dirt under the eave like shoes had scraped when someone jumped down, and I took a photo with shaking hands. That night I set up a cheap motion camera in the yard aimed at the back corner, and I poured a bag of gravel beneath my bedroom window so I would hear anyone stepping there, and at 3:17 I heard the roof again. Slow, heavy steps, then the scraping at the gutter, and I grabbed my phone and moved to the living room window that faces the back, careful not to turn on the porch light. And when I looked out, I saw the motion camera's little red indicator glowing. Then it went off, like someone had reached down and switched it, and my hands went cold because the roof steps stopped at the same time. And then I heard the gravel crunch once beneath my bedroom window. One step, then nothing. I did not go into the bedroom. I stayed in the living room with my phone raised, waiting for movement, and a minute later the footsteps returned on the roof, moving away toward the front, slow and calm. Like whoever it was had all the time in the world. In the morning my yard camera was gone, not broken, not tossed aside, simply gone, the mount still there, the cable tie cut clean. And when I called the police again, the officer took a report with the same tired look and asked if I had better security footage, then told me to get better cameras. That week I did everything people tell you to do. Lights on timers, new deadbolts, window locks, trimmed branches near the roofline, even an alarm sticker like it meant anything. And the roof steps kept happening. Not every night, which was worse. Random enough to keep me alert, but consistent enough to prove it was real. Always around 3:17. Always near my bedroom first, like the person wanted me awake. One night I heard the steps and then a careful metal click near the attic vent, not prying or banging, just a precise sound. And I realized something sick, that if someone could get onto my roof, then the attic was not unreachable. The attic hatch in my hallway ceiling has a simple latch, and the next morning I pulled a chair beneath it and saw fine gray dust on the latch that did not look like insulation. It looked like residue from fingers. I opened the hatch and climbed halfway up, and the attic smelled stale, insulation everywhere. And then I saw compressed trails through it, leading from the vent area toward the center beam, like someone had crawled. And sitting on the beam was a bottle of water half full, a brand I do not buy. I backed down, closed the hatch, and locked it with a padlock through the latch hole. And that night the steps came earlier, 2:58, then again at 3:17, then again at 3:22, pacing, waiting, and I sat in the hallway beneath the hatch with a baseball bat in my hands while my phone stayed open, and at 3:22 I heard the attic latch rattle once, the padlock holding, then a slow scraping above me, like someone shifting position, then silence. I did not call 911 because I knew what they would say. No proof, no suspect. And in the morning, there was a shallow scratch on the hatch near the latch, like a tool had been tested. That was enough. I packed a bag and left, driving to a motel 30 miles away and checking in under my middle name, and I slept for 12 hours straight. On the second day, I asked a friend to go back with me in daylight, and we walked the yard while he stared at the roofline, then pointed near the back gutter where a short section was bent down slightly like weight had been put there. And hidden in the brush behind the fence we found a small folding ladder that was not mine. My friend wanted to call the police, and I did, and they took the ladder, looked in the attic, took the water bottle, said they would try prints, said they would patrol, and then they left again, and nothing changed. I did not go back to that house after sunset. I broke my lease and lost money, and I did not care. I moved downtown into a concrete building on the 5th floor with key fobs, cameras, no trees near the windows, no roof access from outside, and I slept for the first time in months. 2 weeks passed and normal life returned in small pieces until one night my phone buzzed at 3:17 with an unknown number and no message, only a missed call that I stared at until the screen went dark. The next night there was a soft sound above my ceiling, not scratching like an animal, a single slow step, then another, then a pause directly over my bedroom door. and I sat up listening until the silence returned. In the morning, I walked into the hallway outside my unit and looked up at the ceiling above my door, and there was a faint smear in the dust near the sprinkler plate, like a hand had steadied itself there. Fresh and unmistakable. I went back inside, locked my door, checked my peephole, checked it again, because I moved to get away from a man on my roof. And now I am on the 5th floor hearing weight above me at the same time every night. And I still do not know who he is. And I still do not know how he gets close enough to make sure I hear him. Story 3. The Repairman. My name is Elliot, and I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 4th floor of an old concrete building that has always felt solid enough to make me relax. I work nights. I get home by 7:30 every morning, shower, drink black coffee, and sleep. And that routine never changed until last August when my air conditioner broke. It was not a window unit, it was the central system, and the humming stopped one Tuesday morning. Heat built up fast, and by noon the apartment felt like an oven. So I called maintenance, and they told me a repairman would come that afternoon. I waited, and at 2:47 there was a knock on my door, and when I opened it there was a man in a gray uniform with a name tag that said Mark, carrying a metal case, smelling like cigarettes and sweat. And he told me he was from the HVAC company. I let him in, and he walked straight to the thermostat without asking permission, without smiling, moving through my space like he owned it. And he checked the unit in the hallway closet, said the compressor was shot, said he needed parts, said he would come back tomorrow, and the way he worked was slow and deliberate, like he was memorizing the layout, where the couch sat, where the TV faced, where my bedroom door opened. He left after 20 minutes, and I locked the door behind him and felt relief. The next morning, cold air was blowing again, and I thought it was fixed, until I noticed the thermostat was set to 68, and I never set it below 72, always 72. So I changed it back and went to work that night. When I came home at 7:30, it was 68 again, and I stared at it, changed it to 72, went to bed, and the next morning it was back to 68. I did not touch it that time. I sat on the couch watching the display, waiting, and at 9:05 the numbers flickered and dropped from 72 to 71, then to 70, then to 69, then to 68, and no hand touched it, no remote, just the numbers changing on their own. I stood up, pressed the up arrow, set it back to 72, waited, and for a moment nothing happened, so I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table. And at 9:17, the numbers dropped again to 68, and at 9:23, they dropped to 67, and the cold air blew harder, like someone wanted me to feel it. I walked to the thermostat, pulled it off the wall, and behind the wires tucked into the space was a small black device no bigger than a coin, an LED blinking red every 3 seconds. I took a photo, put the thermostat back, left it at 68, and went to my bedroom, closing the door, sitting on the edge of the bed listening. At 10:02, I heard a soft click from the hallway closet where the AC unit lives, then a whisper of movement, fabric on metal, like someone shifting position inside that cramped space. I stood up quietly, opened my bedroom door an inch, and looked down the hall. The closet door was closed, but the handle was turned slightly, not the way I had left it. I walked over, hand on the knob, turned it slow, pulled the door open, and it was empty, the unit humming, no one inside. But on the floor was a single cigarette butt, fresh, still warm. And I do not smoke. I picked it up with a tissue, and the smell was the same as the repairman. I called building management and told them what I found, and they said Mark was a contractor, not their employee, and they gave me the HVAC company number. I called, a woman answered. I described him, and she told me they had no technician named Mark, and when I said he fixed my AC yesterday, she said they had no work order for my address at all. I hung up and went back to the closet, staring at the unit until I noticed a small panel on the side I had never seen before. And when I unlatched it, there was a space just big enough for a person to sit curled up. Insulation pulled aside. A half-empty water bottle of a brand I do not buy. A folded newspaper with yesterday's date, and a small black camera with its lens pointed toward my living room. I did not touch anything. I backed out and called 911, and the officers arrived 20 minutes later, looked inside, took the camera, took the bottle, took the cigarette, and told me it was trespassing and hard to prove intent. Then they handed me a report number and left. I sat on my couch until sunrise without sleeping, and the next morning I called a locksmith and had him change the locks, deadbolt, chain, window latches, $300 I did not care about. That night I set my phone camera on the kitchen counter aimed at the closet door, hit record, and went to bed with the lights on. When I woke up at 3 in the morning, I checked the footage, and at 1:42 the closet door opened slowly. A hand reached out wearing a gray work glove, turned the thermostat down, then pulled back and closed the door as if nothing happened. I packed a bag and left the apartment, drove to a motel 20 miles away, and slept for 8 hours, and the next day I asked a friend to go to my apartment and check the closet. He called me 15 minutes later, voice tight, saying the closet was empty, no camera, no water bottle, no cigarette, but the thermostat was set lower, and on the kitchen table was my spare key, the one I kept hidden outside, lying there like it had always belonged inside the apartment. My friend left without touching anything, and I stayed at the motel 3 more days with no calls, no texts, no disturbances, until the 4th day when I decided I had to go back for clothes and my laptop. I drove after dark, pulled into the parking garage, took the elevator to the 4th floor, stood outside my door listening to silence, then unlocked it and stepped inside and smelled cigarettes immediately. Fresh, like someone had just been there. The living room looked normal. The kitchen looked normal. The bedroom looked normal. Until I saw the bed with the sheets folded back neatly like someone had gotten in and out carefully. And my phone charger unplugged, even though I always leave it plugged in. I stared at it, then walked to the closet again and opened it. The unit humming, insulation pulled back, and tucked behind it was a small notebook with a black cover. My hands were shaking as I opened the first page. Dates, times, notes, not about feelings, just facts. What time I came home, what time I left, how long the shower ran, when the lights turned off, and the last page was fresh with yesterday's date and one sentence, telling me I came back like he knew I would. I dropped it, backed out, locked the door, chain, deadbolt, and sat on the floor with my back against the wood without calling anyone, just listening. Minutes passed, then 3 soft knocks came through the door. Tap, 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 not loud, not urgent, just certain. And after a stretch of silence, his voice followed, calm and flat, saying, "My name, Elliot," telling me he fixed the thermostat and I was welcome. And then footsteps walked away down the hall, slow and unhurried, like he knew I would not follow. I stayed there until sunrise without sleeping. And at 7:30 I packed 2 bags and left for my brother's house. And I did not go back for my things. I did not cancel the lease. I just disappeared. Last night my phone buzzed with an unknown number and one text with 4 words telling me to sleep well tonight, Elliot. And I stared at the screen until it went dark, and I did not block the number. I did not reply. I just locked my brother's door, then locked it again, because I know the difference now between a door being locked and someone deciding it doesn't matter. Closing Tales of the Darkness. This is Tales of the Darkness, and these stories don't end when the video does. Locks don't matter if someone already knows how to get in. Pay attention to what changes when you weren't looking. Subscribe to Tales of the Darkness. New stories arrive regularly, and they don't need permission to stay. Good night.